Nothing like a good wood grain knobby CRT television. It should be plenty obvious by now how much I champion the vibes one can get from using one of these incredibly classic looking TVs. I count my blessings every day that I have such a large and varied collection of CRTs to choose from should I ever get that itch to enjoy some video content on a good old picture tube. And more often than not, I find myself turning to one of these splendid televisions to get that job done. Sure, the lack of higher quality video inputs and access to stereo sounds might deter some from considering one of these relics, but to me, that's all part of the charm. However, there is another detriment of these particular types of televisions that could actually be remedied by a pretty interesting and, surprisingly enough, period accurate solution, and that's what I'm here to share with you today. Now, how often does this happen to you? So, you sit down to unwind the evening away with some quality time spent in front of the boob tube, only to realize that, crap, I wanted to browse around and see what else is on. Or the volume needs to be adjusted. But unfortunate for you, you were pinned down by either, say, your snacks, or even worse, a critter that just spent the past 10 minutes getting comfy on your lap, and now you no longer have the means for getting up and adjusting the television set. Okay, yeah, fine. This never happens, at least not anymore. It's a totally anachronistic problem that, as far as I'm concerned, had already been essentially solved for decades now. Hell, the proliferation of the television remote took place even before my youth, and I'm in my 30s. And even if someone somehow didn't get the memo and managed to keep one of these old boxes kicking around into the 21st century, the final death blow to these lovely tuning knobs came with the switch to digital broadcasting, which, at least for my North American audience, took place in July of 2009. But playing around with obsolete technology is, of course, one of my great passions. And for those of you who also share these same interests, today I'd like to show you a really cool way to add a bit of remote control functionality to an older, fully analog knobby television set like this one here. And the solution is found in this box. So this here is a Telecaption Decoder device. That name alone might provide you with an excellent clue as to what the original function of this box was, and that is for allowing the display of closed captions on a television. Now, while this iteration of captioning technology is very familiar to those of my generation and up, I realize that to some of my viewers who might happen to be much younger than I am, the subtitles that we are accustomed to seeing today through the various streaming services that we employ are based around a somewhat recent standard of captioning that became available in the digital era. Now, this primary purpose of the telecaption has little to do with the main topic of my video here, but the history behind why this device exists is also quite fascinating as well, so I'll touch on it for a bit right here. During the days of analog television, the display of closed captioning was the responsibility of the television itself, rather than the specific platform or channel that the video source was coming from. In analog video, the captioning data is streamed right along with the video signal, and is stored within line 21 of the vertical blanking interval, which is the signal pulse that instructs the television where the start and end of each frame of video is. This closed captioning standard was developed during the 1970s thanks to the valiant efforts of a task force created by the National Association of Broadcasters, purposed with the goal of making television equally as accessible to the deaf and hearing impaired. Through their development, along with the pioneering work of some broadcasters such as WGBH out of Boston, this all culminated into the founding of the National Captioning Institute in 1979. This nonprofit would then go on to become the de facto authority responsible for producing the closed captioning data that would accompany essentially every piece of video that would be broadcasted here in the United States, even up to this very day. However, there was a technical hurdle that needed to be solved. Television technology of this time period was still entirely analog based, and even all the way into the mid 1980s, consumer sets with such features as digital tuners and remote control support still hadn't taken a big enough foothold in the market. It was even more rare at the time to find a television capable of generating its own on screen display for stuff like the channel or volume indicators. So, when many of the major US broadcasters began transmitting Line 21 closed captioning with their programs starting in the year 1980, how were viewers able to see these captions on their televisions that lacked the ability to generate the on screen graphics in order to display them? These decoder boxes were the answer. The telecaption would be connected as a pass through device between the incoming video signal and the television itself, not unlike how VCRs were also used at the time as well. The decoders had the ability to read the captioning data hidden within the video signal and then overlay these captions over the image, which it then sent out to the connected television to display them. But anyway, now that I've explained why this box exists, let's get back to the main purpose of this video. So, apart from adding the ability to display closed captioning, there are a few other surprising features that this telecaption device has that, in fact, can add some functionality to an older television set such as this one. Built into this thing is essentially a full remote control feature that acts as a bypass for the tuning knobs found on many of the televisions of the time. Included inside this box is a full RF tuner, which you are able to properly channel surf through. And even more impressive is that they also gave you the means for adjusting the output volume of the device as well. Now, of course, they give you the controls to do this on the front fascia of the decoder itself, but these telecaptions also came with their own dedicated remote control as well. See what I'm getting at here? Yes, by simply tuning your television into the output signal coming from this device, by changing the channel or volume on the telecaption with the remote, you can now control a knobby analog television like this completely wirelessly. And it gets even better. Notice how on the rear of this box is a switched electrical outlet? Well, by connecting the power cable for the television you are using with this device into this socket here and leaving the power switch for the TV in the on position, you are now even able to turn your television on and off with the telecaption's remote. Granted, I have no idea if powering your CRT like this is at all healthy for the power circuits within the television itself, but it's such an awesome bonus feature. Every necessary control for this TV, save for the picture adjustment knobs, can now be fully accessed directly via this remote control. It's such a remarkable device. In a way, this thing kind of is the period equivalent of adding smart features to a television. It almost reminds me of how, in the modern era, we are able to add streaming functionality to certain displays through the use of something like a Roku, Chromecast, or Fire Stick. I'm unsure of how prolific these telecaption decoders were at the time, but hopefully some of those who brought these devices home also found great enjoyment from having these bonus features thrown in. And in the modern era, these boxes are great things to have if you really happen to enjoy watching content on a classic television like this one. There were a variety of different telecaptions produced over the years, and many of them can be had for very reasonable prices through the secondhand market. Now, if you happen to be wondering about when the production of these boxes ended, their manufacture pretty much became unnecessary in the United States with the passing of the Television Decoder Circuitry Act of 1990. This bill, passed by Congress, required that by July of 1993, every television with a screen size of 13 inches or greater that would be sold in America must be equipped with its own internal closed captioning decoder. Funny enough, the passage of this bill pretty much resulted in the end of the old school UHF VHF tuning knobs that had been found on televisions for decades up until that point. Being that the addition of a closed captioning decoder meant that every television going forward needed to have some form of digital circuitry in them to generate the on screen display, the very few manufacturers that were still producing television like these into the early 90s all pretty much discontinued their production. So, I guess in a strange bit of irony, the primary purpose of this decoder box here that I'm featuring in this video also had a hand in the obsolescence of one of my favorite aesthetic features about televisions from this era. However, it was all for a noble cause, though, as making an information medium more accessible for everyone, regardless of one's disability, will always make for a better society. The next time you are following along to the subtitles for one of your favorite shows, thank the dedicated folks at the National Captioning Institute for all of their hard work for making this feature of television an important standard of the technology. But that's it. Yeah, I realize my video here made for a very lengthy way of essentially saying, get one of these boxes here if you want to control one of these televisions with a remote. But hopefully it was at least an interesting watch for you. Now, of course, there is so much more to the story behind the creation of the closed captioning standard than what I presented here to you in condensed form during my video. If you'd like to learn more about the history of captioning and this device, I do not hesitate at all to point you towards the video that Technology Connections did on the telecaption. I cover a lot of the same ground as he does in his video, but of course, I could never match the sheer trademark meticulousness that Alec produces for his channel, at least as of now. So if you'd like to learn more, definitely give it a watch. I've provided a link to that specific video in the description below. And being honest here, my knowledge of the very existence of these devices stems from having personally seen that video many years ago. So, of course, credit where credit is due. But that about does it for this episode of Steve's Assorted Stuff. As always, I thank you for joining me again here and allowing me to continue my soapboxing about my absolute adornment of these televisions, and hopefully this made for another fun video for you all. I hope to see you again next time, but of course, until then, have a great day, everybody.